This is the HeadRush Podcast with Paul Fraze and Corey Berry.
Welcome to the HeadRush Podcast. I'm Corey Berry, and I rode professional rodeo for 9 years as a bareback rider. And my co-host is Paul Fraze, who played 11 years in the NFL. I think he played, see if I can remember this, it's been a year. Jets, Jaguars, Green Bay, and Ravens.
Yes, now you need to just say how many years at each. No?
Good luck with that.
That was good, though. Great.
At the HeadRush Podcast, we talk about everything related to brain trauma, brain health, and wellness. We talk about traumatic brain injury, chronic encephalopathy, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, traumatic encephalopathy syndrome, TES, and repeated head impacts, RHI, and repeated blast exposure, RBE. We cover how traumatic brain injuries can and will cause mental health issues such as depression, addiction, lack of executive function, memory loss, even suicide ideation, as well as degenerative neurological issues. These symptoms can be found on the Mayo Clinic and Boston University websites under symptoms of CTE. Our mantra is how to cope and find hope. We focus our energy on finding therapies and sharing hope through education and by raising awareness.
Corey, we have some incredible guests today. We have two very special guests, and we're gonna call this the Caregivers edition of the HeadRush Podcast. First of all, we have the wonderful, kind-hearted, with the patience of Job, beautiful woman of Corey's dreams, the lovely Susan Berry, and
Stop.
This is our first caregiver, and she's got her hands full. That's all I know.
Heck, I'm a piece of cake.
You're a piece of work.
Says something.
You're a piece of work, not a piece of cake.
Well, you can't eat sugar.
You're on the sugar cut.
Yeah.
So Corey and Susan have been married for nearly 27 years, and they met in October of 1998. And after a whirlwind relationship, they were married in just 5.5 months. Through Susan's gentle nudging,
Baseball bat over the head.
Corey began his journey through the medical maze of and he was diagnosed with cognitive damage, nerve damage, shortly after they were married, and you were diagnosed in 1999.
Correct.
And one of the subjects that we talk about is TES, traumatic encephalopathy syndrome, and there's a whole lot between 1999 and when you were diagnosed with traumatic encephalopathy syndrome, probable CTE. That's the closest you can get in the living. You know, that's the closest you can get diagnosed to CTE is TES.
Right.
Then that was 2022.
2024.
2024.
2024.
One year ago this month.
Yeah.
That's why we go down to San Antonio again.
There's a lot to talk about between 1999 and 2020 and 2026. So
we only have less than an
exactly.
hour, so a lot of it's going to be fuzzy.
Very fuzzy for me because I don't remember it all.
Yeah.
I do got to say my wife is by far my biggest fan, my biggest supporter, and the most important thing in my life, except our daughter.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I was always raised that, you know, as you grow up, parents pass away, grandparents pass away, your kids come up, they leave home. The only person you got left for the rest of your life is your significant other. And I couldn't be happier having Susan as my partner for the rest of my life.
You're gonna hear today that the sacrifice of a caregiver for a patient or loved one with TBI, traumatic brain injury, CTE, TES, and it's a sacrifice. And our next guest
knows this probably better than anybody. I mean, my wife's dealing with me, but we have Brandi Winans, who's the wife of Jeff Winans, who retired as a Raider. And he was diagnosed with CTE. And she has become such an advocate and went through caregiving and everything. So Brandi is probably one of the most inspirational wives from the NFL, I would say, who is no stranger to trials and tribulations. After completing in 9 years what would take most a lifetime, she returned to Florida from Los Angeles and regrouped and braced for the second chapter in her life. Brandi Winans, not only an NFL wife, she's an author, an inspirational speaker, a facilitator, a former radio.
You got rodeo on the brain.
Radio. No, I lost where I was at. Radio and television host. She finished her college in Southern California with a degree in communications and psychology. Her passion is helping others, especially teens and young adults, through her unique life skills seminars. She is an advocate for former pre-93 NFL players, and her family is her greatest blessing. Brandi, a huge welcome to you. Thank you for coming on.
And Brandi,
Thank you so much for having me.
It is a pleasure and an honor to have you on. And I don't know if you can see these two books that Brandi is the author of, Unbreakable Strength and on the flip side of Glory. Again, the show is dedicated to our healthcare givers, healthcare providers, and that is so we're going to dive into what it is like to care for the brain injured. So, Brandi, your bio mentions the work that you do with the pre-93 NFL players. Tell us how you got involved with this.
Originally, it was the pre-93ers. I still work with other players today, former players, but they're no longer pre-93ers. I got involved with pre-93ers because my husband was a pre-93er. He played from 1973 through the 80 season and then was waived by the Raiders in the 81 season. So my genre for working with former athletes really started it all with my husband and dating and then ending up being married to an NFL player. And along the way, Jeff had several injuries along the way, and eventually down the road, neurocognitive problems that took me to working and realizing that we all needed help and we didn't know where to go. And we all individually dealt with this for years and years and years until the 2007 congressional hearings, when we all ended up in Washington, D.C., and found out we were not the only ones that were suffering. We were all suffering together, all going through the same type of emotional turmoil, what I call lost in transition when the shoulder pads and the helmets come off and the doors close behind you. And the whole family unit, not only the player, but the whole family unit is lost. And we really had nobody to turn to. And we also couldn't go to our community because you want to make sure that your man is still a pillar of that community. So it was quite a conundrum. When all of the concussive stuff started with Mike Webster's autopsy, and then finally got recognized with Dr. M. McKee, Dr. Cantu through Boston University, through a young man by the name of Chris Nowinski, who was also going through head traumas and neurocognitive problems from playing 4 years of football at Harvard and then going on to play professional wrestling. I just happened one night to be watching an HBO Real Sports special with this young kid on, and he was talking about a book he wrote called Head Games. And he was talking about every sign and symptom of my husband, who had just asked me for a divorce, and I didn't know I was getting one. And all of a sudden, I got this knot in my stomach, and I said, could it be prescription drugs and disability, physical disabilities, or could it be something else? And I couldn't get that out of my head. And I found this young man on the internet, and within 24 hours, he Googled me back. And we set a time for a phone call. In the morning of the phone call, here's Joe D. that played with my husband and Dick talking about the congressional hearings. And the next thing I know, I'm on the phone with Chris Nowinski, and he said, you got to come to Washington. I'll put you in touch with Linda Sanchez's office, and you need to testify. And that's how it was overnight. But it was the first time we were all able to get together, all start a support group. We were together for 3 days, and then HBO called me and said, hey, would you do an HBO Real Sport interview with Bryant? And do you have any other people that might want to get involved?
This episode of the HeadRush Podcast is brought to you by our personal doctor and team of doctors, Dr. Mizelle DeMayo, and she's with the Paradise Behavioral Health, and we are in the
Brainwell program, which is also part of the Millennium Health Center. Dr. Mark Gordon, you've seen him on Joe Rogan and even on our show, the HeadRush Podcast. And hormones. And Mizelle is awesome. We love her.
She's our doctor of psychiatry. She works the Mark Gordon program with the hormones, and she adds her twist of genetics, and it basically is melding two wonderful mediums together, and we're getting great help from Dr. Mizelle DeMayo.
So please check out her website at paradisebehavioral.com. Look up the Brainwell program. Get involved.
She's sponsoring us. They're sponsoring us for the next year, so we are excited to have them on board and shout the good news to everybody that is watching these broadcasts. So,
is she helping you, Paul?
Absolutely.
She's helping me. So go check her out. ParadiseBehavioralHealth.com.
This is a very long story, and we could do about 5 episodes on this. And we're going to get deeper in that. So you and I both knew Chris Nowinski before he was Dr. Nowinski, and everybody now who has just met him is Dr. Nowinski, and it's funny to hear that. But
I call him Chris.
Well, yeah, I do too. He's in my phone as Chris Nowinski, not doctor. But he is a doctor of neurology, I believe, right? That is his heading. Susan, I want to go back to Corey for a bit. Corey was diagnosed with cognitive nerve damage due to repeated head impacts shortly after you were married. What caused you to encourage him to get tested? Because he had not started that road down to get tested by doctors and so on and so forth.
Right. So this was before CTE was even known. This was basically their only cognitive nerve damage, basically told you that you had too much white matter on the gray matter of your brain. They said it was scar tissue. And they concluded that it was because of, too much head trauma. But there wasn't a doctor back then in the late 1999s, early 2000s that would actually take the time to sit you down and do neurological or any psych evals or anything like that. They would pump you full of pills. They would say, you need to do this, you need to do that. They would send you to counselors. They would send you, to all these different doctors. So with what was going on with him and the quote unquote episodes that he was having, we didn't know how to handle them. People would tell us that they were petit mal seizures or they were mini strokes or TIAs. And, we'd get so scared that we would end up taking him to the emergency room where he can't walk in because he can barely use his legs and can barely voice anything to the emergency room personnel. And the next thing you know, they're like, well, we can't do anything for you. And they make him walk out. He came in a wheelchair because he can't walk, but you're forcing us to walk out. So we went years and years and years before it finally got to the point where it was unsafe for Corey and it was getting dangerous. He would be able to feel everything coming on and he could slow down. But there were times where he would drive somewhere and it would be a couple hours down the road and wouldn't know where he was at, wouldn't know how he got there. So we've had plenty of scary moments, but nothing compared to what we've gone through in the last 3 years, the progression of it, and how much worse it is compared to November 14th of 2022. Mm-hmm. He was a normal person until
semi-normal.
Well, you've never been truly normal. So I know no one can handle you but me.
So what was the event that took place in?
Well, to start things off, in early December, I think it was. We met in October. Early December, he was helping me move into a townhome back in Oregon, and he comes up the sidewalk, and he didn't trip, unless he's just being sly. Cowboys have that way of being sly. And he kind of just fell into my arms, but didn't pass out, didn't trip. And we're like, okay, what's going on? That's when he went to the doctor and found out he had a broken neck for 1.5 years.
We're still competing.
He was still riding.
Still competing. So within that time, it was, and I can't remember if it was, just a couple of months or for 6 or 7 months when he decided that he's no longer going to rodeo because now.
I decided.
Hey, I wasn't part of your rodeo life.
You're the reason it ended.
I'm getting the baggage.
Time out. So
what happened is I ended up calling Tandy Freeman, who's head of the PRCA Cowboys and kind of orchestrates everything.
The Cowboy Crisis Fund.
Right. Through the Cowboy Crisis Fund. And they sent me down to UCSF to get studied by Dr. Jorgensen. Right? Mm-hmm. And that's when they told me I had a broken neck and cognitive nerve damage and then ordered neurological testing and all of that back in 99.
I think it was further down the road than that.
Was it?
Yeah.
But I would get rage issues. And what she's talking about is I would literally, my neck was pinching into my spinal cord. So if I tripped right or did something right, I'm out. I'm not out, but I'm loopy. And then neurological issues that's going on with that, it all kind of bounced down. And we didn't find out nothing until 2019 or 14.
2012.
Sanchez?
Well, 2010 was when we lived here in Dallas, and you had the big episode at the DFW airport. And you went through all of the battery of tests, the sleep deprivation, weeks and weeks of testing and neurological testing, and they still didn't know what was wrong with you.
And that's in 2010.
And then we moved back to Oregon in 2010. And in 2011, 2012, Corey was driving big truck, an 18-wheeler, and he was heading from Southern Oregon to Los Angeles, and went like I said, a couple hours down the road, pulls over to get service on cell phone because, back then it was pretty spotty. There wasn't as many towers as there is now. And he told me, he goes, I don't know how I got here. I don't remember driving.
Yeah.
He's hauling 80,000 pounds worth of cargo in that trailer.
And he was driving in a blackout.
And he was basically driving in a blackout. So I called the ambulance. They sent two. They sent the CHP out there. And Bailey and I were out shopping. And we started heading down there. And they take him to Redding, California. And what do they say? Oh, he's having a stroke. He's not having a stroke. I don't know,
So we're going to come back to that. I want to keep that. Take a picture, a snapshot of where we are.
I forget
where we are. Yeah, I'll forget. But and you were competing with a broken neck, and it was before they had Toradol. They probably never gave you Toradol or anything like that.
I don't even know what Toradol is.
Well, I had a sciatica going down my left leg, and my lower back was locked up, and they shot me with Toradol, and I had the best game of my life. And when the drug wore off 18 hours later, I couldn't even walk. Anyway.
Well, he had surgery in 2000 and had his neck fused.
He had neck fused, yeah.
We figured out the neck issue in 99. Surgery was in 2000. And then a couple years pass, and then you do surgery on shoulders, and then you start having a little more episodes, one by one.
Okay, so let's come back to that spot. Brandi, you weren't married Jeff before CTE was a thing.
Yes, we dated for 2 years, and we got married in 1981. And his career was winding down at the time that we met. We met when he was playing for Tampa. And then he got waived from Tampa, and they basically told him set out and pick up another team. And he always wanted to go back to the Raiders, and the Raiders picked him back up. But he had a lot of physical injuries prior to that, and then a lot of surgeries from physical injuries. And so when he first left football, he was going through depression, which I just thought was normal, and everything that, your livelihood, you played 8 years in the pros, 18 years of football is, that's normal. But he had tried to commit suicide with pills, and then thought that was the only way he could take care of me, and that was way before our child was born. But I was already noticing some things with anger outbursts and some flooding, which I learned about later. And so I wasn't in tune with anything going on here. I was more in tune with all of his physical disabilities and depression. And then we got past all of that just before the gunshot accident. And then throughout the next 25 years, he continued to deteriorate emotionally, physically, but all along the way, I was just thinking it was prescription drugs and physical until 2007. And then I realized there was something else going on. And at that time, he did not give into it. In his mind, he was still this tough guy, and there was nothing wrong with him. It was just my problem. I was the problem. And so throughout the next few years, he just kept deteriorating emotionally as well, until he realized that maybe since he saw me helping other people after the congressional hearings and moving forward, working with other players in 2010, we started getting back together. And he said, well, you're helping all these other people. You're not helping me. And I said, I've tried, but you have to ask, you have to want it. And so he started giving in and wanting to get some brain scans. And that's when we started realizing that it was more of a neurological problem along with the physical disabilities. And then we started trying to wean him off of all the Duragesic patches, which were straight fentanyl, 120 Soma,
Wow.
60 Valium for breakthrough, 60 Percocet for breakthrough. I mean, he was on everything under the sun. And the Toradol you were talking about, you know what that goes on in the locker room. So these guys, I don't know about you, Paul, but when you have a team physician, you are relying on them to take care of you. And so when they're giving you all these things, you're accepting that they're doing the right thing for you as well.
I agree, but I also personally experienced this because I'm the one that did it. I went to my doctor 2 hours before the game when I was supposed to be long snapping and bending all the way over and long snapping. I couldn't even touch my knees. And I told the doc, I says, Doc, you got to give me something. And he says, what are you talking about? And I said, I can't touch my knees. I got to play, because I was backing up one of the, a superstar that needed he actually needed a little respite because his back was bothered. And the doctor says, well, what's wrong? And I said, my back. He says, well, your back, I can't do anything for you. We got to check you out. And I said, no, I got to play, dog. Just give me something. Shot a Toradol in my arm. I had the best game of my life. And like I said, couldn't walk 18 hours later.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you look back in it, but and I don't know if it was Jeff's life too, because if we stepped off the field, there was a younger, stronger, faster young buck ready to take our job.
Yeah.
And
your job's on the line, not every day, but every play. Your job is on the line every play. And that's the other thing, that Jeff, there's so much pride within you too. And, this is your livelihood. And so you're going to continue to try to keep your livelihood going as long as possible, especially if you love the game.
Millions live with depression, anxiety, fatigue, or emotional chaos, believing it's permanent. It's not. The Millennium Protocol targets hidden inflammation and hormone disruption caused by trauma, stress, and time. Created by Dr. Mark Gordon, featured multiple times on Joe Rogan and the HeadRush Podcast, plus the documentary movie Quiet Explosions, this approach has transformed lives once written off as hopeless. Visit TBIHelpNow.org and take the 10-question brain health assessment. Healing is possible. Your story isn't over. Let's begin again with your brain.
let's go back to Corey. He started to get some tests. You started noticing some things weren't right. Now this is interesting. Brandi, you said Jeff really it took him till 2010 to admit, hey, okay, it's something going on. Help me, Brandi. Why aren't you helping me? But Corey, kind of a different tune, I think. No? Well, Corey tells me all the time, Paul, you got to get tested and make sure.
Corey is almost his own caretaker. He's the one that gets a hold of the doctors. He's the one that's been doing all the research. I had a full-time job up until recently, and he was the one telling me, you need to do this. They have a support group here. You have to do this. You have to do this.
Really quick, hold that. But you say he's kind of his own caretaker.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen you talk him off the ledge. I've seen you at dusk say, Corey, put your hand on my back and follow me and walk across the grass.
It's because he doesn't remember what he needs to do when those environmental triggers come, which he's getting better at now because we have less stress in our life and we're living a more minimalistic life and a more quiet life than what we had previous.
But I think what you were asking is, how did I accept my neurological issues? It was a fight.
Well, it was.
I didn't believe in depression. I don't.
So,
Corey, let me ask you a question. Were you, I know with Jeff, I was the problem most of the time. I was the reason that I hear that triggering his emotions. I was the reason for this. I was the reason for that. I was gone too long. I was this, I was that, as he neurologically started digressing more, and then the anger management and putting holes in walls and just flooding and then writing me the most beautiful letters after and telling me he doesn't understand what's going on and he's so sorry that he had an outburst like that. And then sometimes Travis and I would really just walk around on shells, especially when he couldn't emotionally take anything anymore. And so he would take more pills to try to sustain his pain. But it wasn't just his physical pain anymore. It was his emotional pain. And he would get lost. He would, even 3,000 miles away when he was in California and I was here, he would call me. He's out somewhere. He had lost. He started having blackouts. And one thing that you said that earlier, Corey, was about the falling. You see, I was attributing, until you just said that the other day, too, we were talking, was the falling. I was attributing it to too many drugs. But now I'm realizing, and I realized later, that some of that falling was happening and he would have blackouts too. So, hearing your story really helped me to just reiterate that these were all things that were based off of, you had traumatic encephalopathy. He had ended up with stage 3 CTE. But I think the beautiful thing about what you're doing now is you're getting the therapy and the things that you're recognizing it a lot quicker than Jeff did later.
It's all because of my wife. I mean, when we first started, it was a fight. It was, I can still work. I can still do this. I can still function. I'm not the problem. My daughter's the problem.
I'm a big, strong cowboy. We buck up, shut up, and get up. Leave me alone.
How many times have I heard that, and I've only known you for a year?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that's why.
And now he cries at commercials on TV.
Not no more. I'm on pills for that. But it's a mentality, I think, of not just a cowboy, but as a competitor. Right. You know it, Paul. Brandi knows it from Jeff.
Yeah, as a man, too.
As a man, that I'm supposed to control this household. I'm supposed to be the breadwinner. Damn it, you're going to listen to me. And I'm going to be first. Mm. And if you don't like these rules, there's the door.
That's the Corey I married right there.
Yeah, and that's how Jeff ended up.
Seriously.
So many different times. So many different times.
And I mean, the stories that I've heard from other wives and moms and everything that talk about their sons and their husbands with, what they think is full-blown CTE and the rage issues, is that there's 95% of these stories I hear, they all say, like what Brandi was saying, they're the ones at fault, not the person with suspected CTE. They never take the blame. They always blame the spouse or the mom, it's their issue, whatever. But with Corey, he's never done that to me. When he has a rage issue, he can feel it coming on. He had one back in 2008 where he came home from work, and normally he would run to the bathroom, take off his uniform because he drove truck and they had to wear uniforms. He'd be greasy and dirty. He'd run to the bathroom, take a shower, and then he'd come out and we'd have dinner and whatnot. He came home, sat in the chair in the dining room, and this vein in his forehead kept throbbing. And he was still in his uniform 2 hours later. And he was just beside himself. That's the maddest I've ever seen him. And it doesn't matter what Bailey did as a teenager. If Bailey went out and wrecked the car, I've never seen him as mad as I did that day. And then finally he looked at me and he goes, I think I need to go on happy pills. This is a man that only took painkillers, ibuprofen and Advil or whatever, wasn't doing anything, had no mental issues, never complained of a headache, ever. And it was also the same year that we watched Concussion. And the light went on and we just kind of looked at each other and was like, oh, okay. Hindsight's 2020. You don't know what you don't know. So hindsight's 2020, but from 2008 until 2022, we didn't take steps to make any of this really better.
We didn't know.
Exactly. So
we didn't know.
If we would have started back in, let's say, 2014, started you on fish oils and, omegas and diet and everything, instead of going out and living our life like we were, things might be a little bit different today.
So, Brandi, 2010, Jeff starts to realize, hey, yeah, it's neurological. You need to start helping me, Brandi. Talk about that series in your life. I
had waited 3 years for him to say that, and he was major love of my life for 30 some years and always will be. And one of the most kind, wonderful men you would ever want to meet. I want to clarify that. But when you love somebody and you are seeing this type of emotional and physical changes going on, you're there for them, even when they slept you off. When he finally got vulnerable, he was also during that time having 3 DUIs. He had blackouts. He had been on medevac from Turlock one time he had an accident, blacked out. He was on a ventilator. They medevaced him from Turlock to Modesto. And that was pretty much the biggest aha moment for him. When he got off the ventilator, we started getting him off of all the medication that he was on. And we, the doctor, I tell you, the other savior was the judge that sent him to rehab, but we couldn't find rehab anywhere in California because he was on Medicare. Nobody would accept him. He found this little hole in the wall in Modesto that was going to be like $6,500 a month, and he's already almost close to $80,000 in debt for lawyers for all of this other stuff. And the next thing you know, I'm at an NFL event, an NFL summit in Vegas, and I've got Marianne Fleming and Andrew Collins talking about the new benefit stuff. And there were these doctors there from Utah, Dr. Joel Hansen. And I stood up and said, well, where do we get all this help? Because I told the story. And after that seminar workshop that afternoon, Dr. Hansen came up and said, we want to hear more about Jeff's story. We want to help. And I was on my way down to Turlock after to see my son. My son was living there then. And I had lunch with them. I told them the story. They said, we want to help. We'll talk to Andre. Maybe Andre can pick up the flight, but we'll send him there. So we got the judge to order him. We went to court in California and got the judge to send him there. And we got him off everything except for some, the new drug that they were coming out. You take a pill a day, but they put him in the hospital. They drained him out, got him clean, and everything started turning around then, except for the neurocognitive disease that was overtaking him. And then eventually, unfortunately, he was declining. He knew it. And, eventually he passed in the end of 2012. But he was back on track, getting off all of those drugs. Was he still sustaining pain? Yes. But he was sustaining it in a different way. I think, as anyone knows, any addiction to drugs, the mind reverses and creates pain that you need more. The addictive side, you need more. So, I'm so blessed that we got back together. And when he passed, we were 2 months from getting remarried, and we had love, joy, and peace within our family. And that was the blessing of it all. And I still continue to work with other players.
Susan.
Yes, sir.
You guys have a daughter together.
We have a daughter, yes.
And I guess I was very, very fortunate enough to attend her wedding this summer, right?
May 8th.
May 8th.
Yep.
My birthday's May 6th. I should have remembered that.
You should have. Next year, you'll remember it.
How old is she? She's 28 or
31.
She's 31. So Corey has been in this neurodegenerative decline or status for
her whole life.
Her whole life?
Yeah, pretty much.
How do you maneuver or manage that relationship? I mean, how did she manage that relationship?
Get tissues ready.
Well, she's, obviously she's got, her own issues and whatnot, and she's building her life with Andrew. She had seen my mom decline severely fast with dementia. And my daughter wears her heart on her sleeve, and she has a really, really hard time dealing with what Corey's going through. She doesn't. Is that because she doesn't understand? No, she understands. Okay. She understands.
She follows our Facebook page.
Yeah.
Does she?
She's super smart. She understands. But I think, and it's not her being selfish. I think just at this point of her life, she wants to build her life.
So she's
she's protecting her heart is what she's doing. She doesn't want to have to worry about her dad right now. But I bet that if I called her up tomorrow and said, Dad woke up this morning and I don't think he's going to be here past next Friday, you need to come home, she'd come right home.
Right.
Yeah.
But as of right now, she's young, she's building her family, and that's what she's doing.
In our relationship growing up, I had to have the sit-down hard conversation with her in 2024 when I found all this out and after I came back from San Antonio. And I had to apologize to my daughter.
So you had the cognitive whereabouts to understand the TES diagnosis.
Once I got it,
right.
Once everything happened, everything kind of hit in to where it was, okay, Bailey, some of the stuff I did growing up wasn't me. It was me, but it wasn't me. I love you. I always will. You're my daughter. You're daddy's little girl. You'll be there until the day I die. but some of the yelling, the mad, like you talked about with Vela, with your veins popping out and you're going to listen to me. And, I did that with Bailey. I'm very thankful I was not raised, and I was raised in some abusive homes, but I wasn't raised by people that were abusers. My mom being who she was, and some of the people she married abused her. But because of my grandparents, my father, my uncle, and everybody around me, I was raised that you do not raise a hand to a woman. If she hauls off and decks you in the nose, you just turn around and walk away.
Yeah.
And so I'm very thankful I had that moral that encompassed in me, that I was never abusive to my daughter physically or my wife. Mentally, yes. Physically, no. Mentally, I was literally, this is what's going to happen.
If you've been told it's all in your head, but deep down you know something is wrong, listen closely. Brain fog, depression, anxiety, irritability, even PTSD. These are not just mental issues. They may be signals of neuroinflammation and hormonal disruption, root causes that traditional medicine often ignores. At the Millennium Health Centers, founded by Dr. Mark Gordon, they have helped veterans, athletes, and everyday people restore brain function using a medical process called the Millennium Protocol. Take their free brain health assessment at tbihelpnow.org and discover if inflammation, not weakness, is holding you back. You're not broken, you're unbalanced, and balance can be restored.
I have to say, with Travis, it was very difficult when he went out to live with his dad for a couple of years in California, and his dad was completely deteriorating. It was very hard for him, and not knowing, he had lost a little respect for his dad. He came back. When I first told him we were getting back together, he just looked at me like, and, I loved him. And so then we all came around, but we weren't expecting him to pass either. And he had guilt. He had so much guilt after Jeff died, and realized that he had suppressed so much guilt and pain inside of him. And then he couldn't feel for a number of years until his daughter was born in 2016, like 4 years. He had his wall up, and I understand what walls are. I think we all put our survivor mode on at times, but he had a lot of guilt after that, because he, in his mind, if we had all known that he could have understood it better, he could have done better with it. But the kids, we have to really remember about the kids, because the kids are video recorders with legs, and they see everything that we don't even want them to think about seeing. And so, Corey, I'm so proud that you did that. Travis knew that Jeff was deteriorating. Travis knew that he had physical injuries. I don't think he really understood that his dad had neurocognitive problems until Jeff was gone.
And, Paul, I want to do something different. Me and you are going to sit back away from the mic, because this is getting deep. I want Brandi and Susan to take the next 10 or 15 minutes and have a conversation on what actually it's like being a caregiver and dealing with these issues, because you're by yourself now. Well, you got your parents, but they're 91. You got your brothers, but they're in New Hampshire. I have my wife. I want them two to hold the conversation. And Brandi, I'll let you start the conversation because my wife didn't know this was coming. I want you two to take the next 10 or 15 minutes and have a conversation of what the harsh reality of this is, if you don't mind.
I'm pretty sure that Brandi saw that when we were in Tampa because it was a tear fest when we were in Tampa. So I know what the harsh reality is. And it's pushed down. But I know it because the first day at that Tampa summit, I couldn't handle it. As soon as Karen went up there and started speaking, and she put that video up on the screen, and it was everybody that lost somebody. And here I am with my husband who's still alive, sitting right there with me at the summit when he couldn't even fly in a plane because of what he goes through. The whole weekend was so profound. That's exactly what it was a big old tear fest. That's why Brandi came over and hugged on me after you had pointed me out in the crowd. Because other than that, she would have just saw me as somebody crying all the time.
I think these type of events, for years, we weren't allowed to talk about it.
It's taboo.
We held it in behind closed doors. That's what we did. Because again, like I said earlier, we just wanted our men to walk out that front door and have some sort of honor and dignity. You're going to make me cry, Susan, in our community, because that's who we are. We love our men, and it hurts. It hurts to watch them deteriorate or to have a bad day. But then when they have the good days, I mean, that all went away again.
I have a box.
And so, but what it's like to be a caretaker is also to be on a constant roller coaster ride. And, are you going to be in for the long haul? A lot of the players that I've dealt with too, pre-93ers or current former players, once there's an injury, once there's a problem, a lot of these women, what were you there for? Were you really there because you love that man? Are you there for the long haul? And the one thing I wanted Jeff to know is that no matter what, I was going to be there for the long haul. There was a time where we had to separate that. Emotionally, I was physically and emotionally drained to a point of no return. But once we regrouped, I knew how much I worried about him every day, was on the phone with him I taught him how to text. I bought him a phone, he didn't want to get on a computer or anything else. And so, those kind of things, that's the hardest part. When he first left football, we didn't have cell phones. And so I had to work. And Susan probably understands that too, and you're not home and then you worry, right? Or you find him on the floor, or, it's like, living in and out of an emergency room. I understand what that is too. And then, he had over 100 surgeries too, between all of that, which I wouldn't wish on anybody, but, it is a roller coaster ride. And are you in for the long haul? You love somebody, and, we don't want you to feel bad. We're here for you. That's the most other thing. We're here for you because we want to be here for you. All right. Not because we have to. We want to be here for you because we love you, and we'll do whatever it takes. And, if you're having a bad day, we'll be there for you. If we're having a bad day, be there for us. Because some days we have bad days. And some days we get in the car and scream. Drive around the block a few times.
There is no I in team, huh, honey?
Actually, there is in a capital A.
Yeah, but you don't spell team that way. But I do understand what she's saying, because I hear so many stories about how bad, this is coming from the wife's perspective, of how bad their husbands are and how abusive they are with their rage issues and everything. And these women give up. They don't have the hope in them. They don't have the faith in them that they can be there for their husband as they're going through this. And it's constantly, I want to leave him. He's a jerk. You know, I hear this all the time. I read stories about it. What pops into my head is, what happened to your vows?
Trophy wives. And I hate to be
To
mean.
death do you part. But in
There's a lot of
sickness,
verbal abuse, though, that comes from flooding, from anger. So I did with Jeff, I took a lot of verbal abuse. And
and I don't get, Corey, I don't
It
get
was
that
horrible,
from you.
but
I don't get that from you.
yeah, thank God.
I mean, he's not, he has no empathy, which is, I mean, he's a coggy cowboy, so he's not going to have empathy for anybody, but it's just the way that he was raised.
Well, and you mentioned something, Brandi, about walking on eggshells.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know how many times my wife has yelled at me? I'm tired of walking on eggshells around you. I've been doing it for 27 years.
I have said it for 27 years. And you kind of, you pick your battles, You got to watch what you say before you say it, which you have no control of whatsoever.
Yeah.
You may have control of it now, but you don't to a certain extent. But you've never had control of what you say before it comes flying out of your mouth. And it doesn't matter who it is. It could be the president, and you'd probably still say the wrong thing to him.
It's just learning to be submissive and be quiet and know that. I think the one thing I learned with Jeff over the years is when he got that way, that the best thing I can do is be quiet. Do not be argumentative. Do not yell back at him. Let him get through this in his own way. Even if he's yelling at me that I'm going to the grocery store now, I'm going to walk the dog now, I'm going in my office, I've got some work to do, just trying to let it ride out and, hope he doesn't break something. So.
Well, and in the last 3 years since Corey's car accident and the stress that we have gone through, I have become more snarky to his comments, and I have started arguments that I probably shouldn't have started. And I am trying to catch myself to bring myself back to where I was 3 years ago before this happened and not get so upset at a drop of a hat over something ridiculous that he's done. So we're all a work in progress.
Mm-hmm.
And hindsight's 2020.
Yeah, but I think any kind of marriage is always a work in progress. It doesn't matter. I'm so blessed that I've been able to work with other families and players, and I've learned so much too from, like what Susan was saying, when she's talking to other families and wives. I think that's really vital. Nobody wants to feel that they're alone in any of this, and support groups are so vital for us. And I think the one thing that misses a lot is the camaraderie that the men need. They need each other. I'm so blessed that Paul and Corey have each other, and I'm sure they have other buds that come together, but that's really vital, because as you start deteriorating a little bit more, I know Jeff just became a recluse. And with all of our functions, that was the one thing that bothered me the most, is that he would just like to go into a room and never come out. And then he had a horrible time sleeping. I think that was the other adjustment I had to make over the years, because he could get 3-4 hours sleep at night, where I had to get up, get Travis off to school, get to work, come back, do most of the work during the day. I tried to keep him busy. One thing that he did was journal. He started journaling, and what we try to do with a lot of the players and other people having any type of a neurocognitive problem is to, figure out what were some of your other passions, what were some of your other gifts, and was it writing? Do you love music? Do you play an instrument? Could you just, put on the boombox and just listen and do things? Are you exercising? Are you getting these endorphins that really need to kick back in? What are some of the things that we can help you do to get you excited again?
Good luck.
Good luck.
Well, because I don't know. Without rodeo, I mean, when I left rodeo, I became a very angry person.
You needed something to let the adrenaline out.
Yeah.
And so I became a race car driver on dirt trucks. until I got concussions. And then I played softball until I got a concussion. Then I played turkey football until I got a concussion. But I got to say something about the support groups. Me and Paul are on the Concussion Legacy Foundation Suspected CTE support group. It is very awesome on some of the relationships I've built with the guys on there that messaged each other phone numbers and contact info, and we reach out. And I think you're right. I think it works when there's other people we can talk to. And in our support groups, when I talk about suicide ideation or anger, I know that they go through it. So when I talk about it, I know I'm not going to shock the hell out of them. The only problem I see with, and I've never listened to one of her support groups, and I never will, but the way I look at it is, the problem with professional athletes and wives is you got some that are married for love and some that are married for money. You got the trophy wives, and then you got the wives.
But the wives that are in the support groups are there for love, or they wouldn't be in that support group.
Yep.
Whether they want to walk out the door or not, they're still there for love, but they have this attitude and this thought in the back of their mind of, my life could be so much better if I was not here. I need to get out. Even after 30, 40 years of marriage, some of these women just want out. They're tired.
Stop. CTE.org proudly sponsors the HeadRush Podcast.
Karen and Doug Ziegel, they are founders. Karen founded the Patrick Grisha CTE Awareness Foundation, and they are one of the most comprehensive websites regarding repeated head impacts and chronic traumatic encephalopathy. They work with legislature. They've been doing this for about 10 years.
They're the grandparents of CTE in my book. So don't knock it. StopCTE.org. And I think a lot of that's where the support group is great for the caregivers, because it gives you guys a voice to let out your anger, to let out your frustrations that this guy's driving me flipping crazy. He's doing this. God.
But they only give us an hour to talk, and if you've got 25 women in there, I did it again. 25 women in there, you can't get everybody's story out because you spend the first half an hour introducing yourself.
Well, I did that with Tyler on Concussion Legacy Foundation. There was like 20 some odd people on, and I'm like, dude, I'm not going to come back until it gets smaller, because this ain't going to work for me.
Yeah.
We've
run out of time.
Well,
But we got to end.
We're really, really quick. Brandi, can you do this? Can you do this in 90 seconds? Can you do a walk through the congressional hearings and what you did then, and then another 45 seconds for what you do now with the players and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Putting you on the
So
spot.
in 2007, I went to the congressional hearings, the DICA press conference first, and then the congressional hearings. We were all blown away. The things that came out in the first group of congressional hearings in 2007 was the catalyst to build for the 2009 congressional hearings. I was blown away by all the people, as I said before, that had always completely thought they were alone like we were. And we put our support group together. At the hearings, they tore into the NFL like you would never have imagined. It was Brent Boyd. We had a sign there that said, "Delay, deny, and hope you die." And that was the first time that I, as a support person, was asked to do an interview with HBO. And then we continued our support group and working with other players and families. And that's been something that I continue to do now.
Susan?
Yes, Paul.
We always end,
Polyox.
we always end our episodes with a word of hope for our audience.
Why'd you pick me?
Well, Brandi's going to do it too, but you're first.
Okay, well, mine isn't a word of hope, but it is a poem. I did not write this. When the arena goes quiet, he used to ride like thunder, hands clutched on leather and sky. Each 8 seconds, I may tear up and break down on this one. 8 seconds a lifetime, each cheer another reason why. Now the crowd's gone quiet, the dust has long settled down, but the echoes still rattle the rafters and sometimes his mind when no one's around. I watch the man I love drift, caught between memory and mist, searching faces he should know, gripping time that doesn't exist. He flinches at shadows I can't see, forgets the words we built a life on, and I hold him like a fence post, steady, splintered, but strong. Some nights I miss the cowboy more than I can say, the laugh, the swagger, the dust on his boots after a long day. But love doesn't end at the whistle. It stays when the lights go dim. When the brain betrays the body and the body betrays him. So ride the storm beside him. No buckle, no glory, no fame. Just a vow whispered in silence. I'll remember us when he can't say my name.
Wow.
Why did you do that to us?
Welcome to my wife's world.
All right.
We're supposed to end on a good note, a happy note.
Brandi,
That is a happy note.
All right.
Well, standing beside.
I came up with a slogan a long time ago. It says, it's through our past that we gain our future. We can't live in the past. We can move forward to the future. And the future is today. And our future is what gives us hope, not our past. So we have to move forward to the future so that we will never give up. We will always keep fighting. We will always be survivors, and we will be there for our family and our friends and our men.
Definitely.
Brandi is the author of The Flip Side of Glory and Unbreakable Strength. These are great reads. I read them in the last 10 days and had to be prepared to talk to Brandi, and I enjoyed the heck out of it. And you need to read these stories. The third one, are you gonna write this? This was written
the
before.
Flip Side of Glory, the final chapter, which will pick up from that flip side of glory through 2020, because I want to include all of the things that have happened with the NFL, with the concussion settlement, with the concussion crisis, and update people more on Concussion Legacy Foundation as well.
Great.
And I want to bring this up. What she just said about her quote, this story is dedicated to all the young teens who are fighting to find their way home. So we're not just talking about pro athletes here. We're talking about teens, everybody finding their way home. Right underneath that, it says, it's through our path that we gain our future. Never give up. God has magnificent plan for your life. Follow your passions and you will succeed in anything. So go and get Brandi's book, Unbreakable Strength. Let's make this a Pulitzer Prize winner, #1 on the reader's book. I would like to see something like that happen for RHI world. And I just want to thank you, Brandi, for coming on. It's tremendous as ever. Once I met you in Tampa, it was like, there's very few women I know that gets it. Unfortunately, all the women I knew or know that gets it are because they lost loved ones because of it. My wife gets it because she's dealing with it, but my wife is educating herself and doing what she can to better her and my life, because I don't always know what tomorrow's going to bring me. I am becoming an isolator, a recluse. I don't want to be around people. People make me mad. You say the wrong thing. It's like the other day, we were at the gas station and the guy drove around the corner. Well, not the other day, a while back ago. Guy went around the gas pumps and yelled at my wife and our friend, who's a 63-year-old lady.
72.
I'm going to be nice. And he yelled at him, "Move your GD car." I didn't even know it. I was gone. I was after him. I don't even remember being that mad to take off and think, I'm going to go beat. I was just after it. If it wasn't for my wife grabbing my belt, saying, don't do this, I probably would have been in Tarrant County. So athletes. They say
It's really
a man...
education,
Awareness.
Education. And
Awareness.
It does not make you a wuss to talk about what's hiding in the shadows.
Well, this is why we do this podcast. We want to bring awareness to the dangers of repeated head impacts, the dangers of that. At the Bruce Mac Parkman Summit, International Summit for Repeated Head Impacts, we were talking about these young kids that strap on helmets at 7 years old, and I think we're all in the camp of there's no need for any of these peewee football players to play
Peewee contact.
No, they don't need tackle football.
It's not even just football.
Well,
I mean, it's
concussive sports.
Yeah.
And then of course, this podcast was dealing with 2 seasoned veterans of caregivers that you've experienced it for 27 years. Brandi, you experienced it for almost more than 3 decades, I guess.
About 34 years.
Yeah. So these are 2 people. These are 2 experts. If you don't know, quite frankly, there's a lot of symptomology that comes with possible CTE that people do not understand unless they're well versed in it. When your loved one perhaps starts raging and you don't know why, you've got to listen to this. You got to bring yourself up to speed and listen to the awareness that we're bringing you, because it could be that they suffered from repeated head impacts. We don't know, but there is a reason. There is hope. And that's what we try to do too. At the summit, the international summit, we had a lot of doctors. They were talking about. Mark Gordon was talking about inflammation. I'm in his camp. I love his camp because it makes a lot of sense to me. The Quiet Explosions camp,
Right.
and
I'm in it.
yeah, you're in it. We're both in it, and there was other doctors there for. We're talking with. Jonathan Dickinson and Trevor Millar from Ambio.
Right.
Yeah, they do ibogaine. So there's a lot of research on psychedelics and neuroplasticity and so on and so forth. So we're looking for answers and becoming knowledgeable. One thing you said, you were talking about, Brandi, I lost a friend of mine at 49 years old. I played football with him at the Jets, and the last 10 years of his life, he was acting the fool. And his son kicked him out of the house. And he was living in the trailer in the woods by himself, doing things he had never done before. And neither his son, the wife, or he himself knew about CTE or knew about the dangers of repeated head impacts. No, I don't know if I think he died of a heart attack. I'm not sure. But 6 months after that, I was on the phone with his wife and her 2 kids, and they were driving to the third kid's football game. And the wife was saying, Paul, could it have been this? We're so ashamed, if it was, we're so ashamed that we kicked him out of the house. And and I said, look, you didn't know, and he didn't know either. And
Right.
If it was not organic to the point where he could make the decision and actually use his brain, if he knew what he was dealing with, he might have made better choices, or at least, and if you knew as a spouse or a caregiver, and if you knew as a son or a daughter what was going on, you would have gotten some tools to be able to deal with that in a different way, in a different level. And the last 10 years of his life might not have been the last 10 years of his life, and it might have been a lot different. So the awareness is so important. And thank you guys for helping us bring awareness to this.
Thank you so much for having me on today, too. I'm very honored to be on. And anytime you want me to come back, let me know. I'll be there.
Awesome. You guys.
Now my wife is looking at me and say, "Don't make me say that."
No. They're going to say,
Susan, I'm sending big hugs. Big hugs to Susan.
I see you two taking our spot next month, and Corey and I will be out fishing or something. You guys can do the podcast. So.
No. Might ruin your persona.
No. Well, thank you. We should have done this a little earlier. We're going to do the plug of subscribe, like, share, help us bring awareness to this debilitating disease. And
like I said, it's no longer about CTE because I don't want to die.
No,
it's all about repeated head impacts.
Repeated head impacts.
I was talking to Chris Nowinski a long time ago.
Oh,
Dr. Chris Nowinski. And I said, I think a person could have 10 concussions and not get CTE if he allowed each one of them to fully recover. You know what he said? Take a wild guess. Could be right.
Right.
Yeah, but you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
But now, I'll tell you one thing. It took me a day or two to recover from my first concussion. My last TBI took me 3 months.
Yeah.
And you're going on how long for this one?
3 years.
Amazon people. Awareness.
Amazon, Kindle, .com.
Thank you. I'll take those home.
Kindle, BarnesandNoble.com.
You took my book.
Or BrandiWinans.com website. You can link directly to Amazon from there. And if you want an autographed copy, there's a text you can send me, and I'll make sure I send one autographed.
Great. Thank you, Brandi. Thank you,
Thank
Susan.
you so much, Brandi. And honey, I know you hate being on this thing. It's taken a year to get you here. And I know it'll be another year before I can get you back on. But thank you.
You're very welcome.
And appreciate it. And I sure hope our fans appreciate what they got to hear today, because you're talking about two very strong women.
Amen.
And without strong women, you don't have strong men.
That's great. Good way to end. Awesome.
So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Guys.
Bye.
This podcast is for general information only and does not constitute the practice of medicine. The use of this information and the materials linked to this podcast is at the user's own risk. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard and delay in obtaining medical advice from any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions.